Great. So I will now enter. So as I said, I'm Simca Horowitz with Mass Farm to School. Many of you guys may be familiar with our organization, where we work to strengthen local farms and fisheries to promote healthy communities by increasing local food purchasing and education at schools. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved with us, from joining in professional learning opportunities like this one or other networking events. We coordinate a lot of advocacy at the state level. Communications efforts like our Harvest of the Month campaign. That's what these little images on the screen are. So encourage you to stay up to date by joining our newsletter, massfarmtoschool.org. We hold a conference every other year and are excited that this next conference is coming up in May. And it's going to be a sort of hybrid virtual in-person event with a series of virtual workshops throughout the week, and then in-person field trips to a number of places around the state. We should be a really exciting week. So you can find out more again at massfarmtoschool.org. And if you are interested in actually presenting, we have like one more day of the RFP for presenters open. Finally, the Mass Farm to School Institute, which is a year-long professional learning opportunity for a cohort of schools or school districts from around the state, is another one of our primary programs. And we are just launched the applications for schools that are interested in participating this next year. It's a great opportunity for those schools that want to take their farm to school programming to the next level, developing a full action plan. You're paired with a coach to support your efforts. So again, check out our website, massfarmtoschool.org, for more info about that. We'll also be sending out this slideshow afterwards, and the slides have links to all of these things in them. So with that, I was hoping we'd have a few minutes to do a bit of food safety trivia, since that's the theme of this session, but we actually have so much content. I want to give you a chance to read these questions if we have time. We'll go over them at the end, but a few puzzlers to think about as we move forward and test your own food safety IQ. So this workshop, what we are looking to do over this session is to review the Commonwealth Quality Program materials. These are food safety materials we've created in partnership with the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, to talk about some best practices around school garden food safety, and explore how you can use the Commonwealth quality materials in your own school. So as I mentioned, I'm really excited to have two wonderful presenters with me here today. Eric Stenfors from the Mass Department of Ag Resources is going to be kicking things off for us. He's a inspector with the Produce Safety Division there. And then we'll hear from Chetna Naimi from Codman Academy Charter Public School, and hear really how a school has put a lot of these efforts into practice. Chetna also has served on the advisory committee that we put together to really develop these new school garden food safety resources. So without further ado, let me turn it over. Oh, sorry, actually one more slide. Ooh, there we go. Oh, sorry, delay on my computer. Okay, so the materials that we're going to be talking about today, these came about with support from a U.S. Department of Agriculture Farm to School grant. We've worked over the past year or so with the Department of Ag Resources and this advisory team I mentioned to develop a set of a standard framework and assessment for maintaining food safety in the school garden that's aligned with the state's existing Commonwealth quality program. So this includes a school garden food safety checklist and an appendix that is really full of resources to support you in incorporating food safety practices into your school garden. And then there's, for those schools that really want to take this to the next level and actually get certified as with the Commonwealth quality program, there's resources and to explain how to work directly with the Department of Ag Resources to do that. So this tool is really designed to help you train anyone who's working in the school garden, and it's sort of print ready resources. So we've got links in this slide deck to all of those that live on our website. So you'll have a chance afterwards to really dig into those and see how you could put them to use at your school. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this presentation. It was great to work on this project and get it underway, and happy we're here now. So just like to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my background, a little bit of past history. But my past experience, I've worked in restaurants as a chef and as a purchaser for not only single restaurants, but restaurant groups. And I would source all sorts of ingredients from both farms locally and across state lines. I would walk around and taste the ingredients and get to know the farmers and how they work, grow, and sell their produce. And that's kind of how I transitioned into this role, which I've been at for about 5 years with the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources in the Produce Safety and Market Access Department. And as a produce inspector, I work with farms in Massachusetts. I perform inspections. I execute produce safety audits for our Commonwealth quality program, which I will discuss a little bit later. And I also help farms with technical assistance, such as working on building a pack shed for them or wash stations for their farm, helping them build a farm food safety plan that's based on good agricultural practices and the produce safety rule requirements, how did these requirements come about? So that's where this slide starts. So the Food Safety Modernization Act, also known as FSMA, was signed into law by President Obama on January 4th, 2011. This has actually just finally come into play the last few years, so it's fairly new program. Farms in this country have never been regulated up until this point. They've had food safety audits based on buyer requests, but there's never been any regulation. So this act that the FDA set into place was to better protect public health by strengthening the food safety system overall, focus more on prevention, which is kind of the key word, prevention rather than reaction, rather than waiting for something to happen and then try to deal with it. This is preventing it from happening. Enforce compliance with the prevention and risk-based food safety standards, and to better respond to and contain problems when they do occur. Hold imported foods to the same standards as domestic foods. So any food that's coming from another country is going to be held to these same regulations that we have in this state. Oh.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Almost there.
Yep. There we go.
Oh. There we go. And to build integrated national food safety systems in partnership with state and local authorities. Now, even though the FDA started this, states had an opportunity to either have the FDA conduct these inspections or the states themselves could do the inspections. So the state of Massachusetts chose to do our own inspection. So we've actually just passed our own regulations for the state, and that just happened this past December. Took a while to get here, but now we are fully in control, so to speak, of those. So the FDA, we're trained under the FDA, but we do these inspections ourselves. The FDA would never come on a farm in Massachusetts unless we either asked them to, or if there was a foodborne outbreak that had crossed state lines. So if it's anything that has to do within the state, we are responsible for. Next slide, please. The FSMA is 7 major rules, recognizing that ensuring the safety of food supply is a shared responsibility among many different points in the global supply chain, both human and animal food. And these rules are designated to make clear specific actions that must be taken at each of these points to prevent contamination. So I won't go over all 7 of them, but it has to do with preventative controls, which has to do with manufacturing food. There's the foreign verification process, which has to do with making sure that they're on the same page as us. There's an animal feed. So there's many different things, but the one that we're going to focus on is the produce safety rule, also known as the PSR. So this is one of the 7. The PSR establishes science-based, which again is key for the regulatory part of it, is the science-based minimum standards for the safe growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of fruits and vegetables for human consumption. The standards apply to fruits and vegetables normally consumed raw, and these are considered covered products. These are such as apples, carrots, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, anything that you would consume raw. The PSR, the produce safety rule, does not apply to produce rarely consumed raw, which is considered non-covered, such as winter squash, potatoes, beets, and several other. There is a list on the FDA website if you ever wondered what the rest of those were, but it's pretty comprehensive. Next slide, please. So the produce safety rule establishes standards for several areas. And if you had an opportunity to look at the checklist, this is kind of where these sections come from. Agricultural water, farmers have to ensure that it is intended or likely to contact produce or food contact surfaces that is safe and adequate sanitary quality with the inspection and periodic testing requirements. Biological soil amendments of animal origin. The rule specifies types and treatment methods of application and time intervals between these applications of certain soil amendments, including manure and composted manure and crop harvest. A health and hygiene section, which is farm personnel to follow hygienic practices, including hand washing, not working when sick, maintaining personal cleanliness. A domesticated and wild animal section. With respect to domesticated animals, the rule requires certain measures such as waiting periods between grazing and crop harvest if there is a reasonable probability of contamination. Wild animals, farmers must monitor for wildlife intrusion and not harvest produce visibly contaminated with animal feces. Equipment, tools, and buildings. The rules set for equipment and tools that come in contact with produce, as well as buildings and other facilities, making sure that those are not, could possibly contaminate the produce in any way. Training requirement, training for all supervisors and farm personnel who handle produce covered by the rule. And this training can go as far as if there's an office upstairs and somebody has to walk through the wash station, then they would need to be trained on how to handle produce, even though they might not actually be touching the produce. If they are in that area, they would need that training. And then there's another one, Sprouts, which needs to follow all these, as well as a few additional ones, including treatment of seeds and testing of spent irrigation water for pathogens. Next slide, please. So the Commonwealth Quality Program. So this is not only FSMA and the produce safety rule, but accompanying these standards are certain record-keeping requirements that document adherence to the standards, including for training, agricultural water, soil amendments of animal origin, and Sprouts. This Commonwealth Quality is a brand designed. My daughter just got home from school, so you might hear some screaming. Commonwealth Quality is a brand designed by Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources and serves to identify locally sourced products that are grown, harvested, and processed in Massachusetts using practices that are safe, sustainable, and environmentally friendly. Next slide, please. So Commonwealth Quality certified growers, producers, harvesters, and processors not only meet the stringent federal, state, and local regulatory requirements, but also employ best management practices and production standards that ensure consumers receive the most safe and wholesome products available. To become a CQP certified school garden, a school can schedule a voluntary garden food safety audit. Upon completion of a successful audit, the school garden will receive a certificate verifying compliance with best management practices and good agricultural practices based on the standards of the Commonwealth Quality Program. This certificate can be presented as proof of meeting third-party audit requirements for ensuring safe and sustainable products. So this CQP program is kind of where the food safety checklist for schools came from. It's directly from ours. It's a little bit different. It's obviously set up a school garden is going to be somewhat different from a production garden that sells, millions of dollars worth of produce. So we did have to pick and choose kind of what works for schools and what works for farms. And this is the key word again is voluntary. So there is a difference between an inspection and an audit. An audit is voluntary. You would call us for us to come out, go over your food safety plan, go over how you work, do things on the farm, where an inspection is a regulatory. It is, you don't have a choice. We would go out every year and inspect. You don't necessarily have to be in the Commonwealth Quality Program to be inspected. But we do, so the produce safety rule, we do embed that into our checklist in the Commonwealth Quality Program checklist. So you're also doing all the produce safety rule requirements on top of good agricultural requirements as well. Next slide, please.
All right.
No worries.
Oh, there we go. Little delay. So let me, well, there we go. Okay.
One more. There we go. So why is garden food safety important? Well, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but over the past, 10 years, over 50% of outbreaks are related to produce, mostly fresh produce. Now, is that because farms aren't as clean as they used to be? Or is it because people are eating more produce? I think it's a combination of, as the population grows, farms don't have the expansive land that they used to have where people are kind of building on top of, so their outskirts can contaminate the food just as quickly as inside. So food safety, what is it? It's the act of taking preventative measures to reduce the risk of people getting sick from food that was mishandled at any point throughout this food supply chain. That's growing, harvesting, packing, processing, and then even after when it's cooled, etc., in the kitchen. When dealing with food safety, the goal is to use preventative measures to reduce any chance of an outbreak, recall, or foodborne illness from occurring, instead of having to deal with the repercussions after the fact. So being preventative means taking those steps, those necessary steps to make sure you're doing everything possible for it not to happen. So that's where this checklist comes in. And different crops can have their own sets of issues that go along with generic food safety. For example, cantaloupe rind has an outer netting where pathogens can hide and grow. This can become an issue for the consumer when they take a cantaloupe home and cut into it, because any pathogen on the outer rind can potentially spread to the inner edible portion of the fruit. However, when you compare this to an apple, you do not have the same issue because apples have a smooth exterior with no exterior netting. They're also grown on a tree, where melons are grown on the ground. They touch the ground, so they have a more probable or potential contamination. So just as you want that person preparing your food in a restaurant to wash their hands after using the restroom and before touching your food, this is the same idea with the students who are harvesting your food. Not only do we worry about suffering from a foodborne illness, but we should also care about what happens to our produce before it makes it into our kitchen, regardless of whether or not it makes us sick. So as your students are out there, I mean, it's fantastic for them to be touching the dirt and starting something and growing something into something that they can actually eat and understand where it comes from. Just that, knowing where it came from and where it goes is very important. But that's it for me on my end.
Thanks, Eric. And I'm going to turn it over to Chetna, who's going to really give us more of a sense of what it looks like to put some of these tools into action. And just want to encourage folks, if you have questions as we go along, feel free to throw those into the chat, and we should have a chance to answer some of those questions at the end. And I'll keep an eye on it if there's any questions around just sort of clarifying. But Chetna, take it away.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Simka, and welcome back. As Simka said, she just come back from her maternity leave, so we are happy to see her back again. So my name is Chetna Naimi. Thank you so much for all of you guys to join this effort. We have been working on working together to produce this document for some time, and glad that we can actually share this. I work at I have a joint sort of a position between a community health center, which is Codman Square Health Center, and Codman Academy. Most of you may be familiar with Dorchester area. We are right in the heart of Dorchester, an urban school with a community health center attached to it, or vice versa. And in my many roles, I actually wear one of the most proud hat I wear is the coordination of Farm to School program. We have been USDA Farm to School grantee since 2017 when we got the planning grant, and in between, we all have shared lots of ups and downs given this pandemic. So it is great to actually think of that we will be moving beyond just putting on masks and maintaining social distance. This is time to sort of, I feel like this is our opportunity to welcome spring and also say, hey, our students are coming back. They're all already back in the school. Hopefully by next school year, most of us will be vaccinated, and hopefully we'll be able to actually spend more and more time in the school garden. And it is no secret, I'm preaching to the choir here that school gardens really are becoming the new avenue for learning, right? More and more. So they have always been popular, but the popularity has increased a lot consistently over the last decade. And it's something that we can all feel proud is the very first school garden was actually started in Roxbury at a school called George Putnam School in 1891. Thought that could put in context that we are all sharing this proud history. And the school gardens, they do enrich our students' lives. They do empower our students in a way that we would otherwise not be able to give them an idea of where the food is coming from. And for that reason, I also want to commend that Mass Farm to School is actually doing a tremendous amount of work to bring access to farm to school goals and vision and mission. Pretty much that has been their big sort of work. And the reason I'm saying it is because it all ties into how we can apply, how we can actually realize food safety in our schools. So I wanted to say thanks to Eric, because Eric, you gave the actual meat, or I should say the flesh of the fruit. And now I want to talk about is that how do we actually enjoy the fruit of this work, right? And that's where the key lies in the detail. I don't want to use the word devil, but key lies in the detail of how schools that are already challenged with so many things that are going on, not to mention that now all the COVID requirements and everything, how do we use this tool that is now accessible to all of us as a means to empower, as a means to really elevate our school gardens to something that we can be feeling safe, as well as feeling like it is part of the school kitchen. So few of the things that I thought the way we can use the CQP document in our school is like, first of all, to really let the teachers and the students know about it, that we take this food safety not just in our school kitchen, because that is forgiven, that's required by USDA, but also in our school gardens. Many schools nowadays, and we are an urban school, so we literally have only 400 square feet of growing space, but we grow a lot of food. And and some of you guys who are here or other schools have much bigger school gardens. So this applies to pretty much every school garden, whether you are doing container gardening or whether you're doing big, beautiful raised beds. That's the whole idea, is that can we actually use these tools to empower our teachers and students grow, actually create an inspiration for future profession for our high school students, and also replicate the impact, because we know that the prevention cannot be measured, but once prevention is not there, the impact will be measured. So the idea is that can food safety plan be implemented so we don't have to measure the unintended consequences of a lack thereof. So make it your own, just like your garden. These documents are also just as equally important to be placed, to be housed, to be accessible. Something that I will talk about later is that these documents can become these one more document that just sits on the back shelf. Please use it. Please use the information in it to integrate into school curriculum like biology, chemistry. I just had a wonderful talk with a humanities teacher who thought that food, you can really trace the history of humankind and foodborne illnesses. And there are many more uses incorporated into your school everyday school life. So next slide, please. And I'm showing some of the pictures of our school here. You can see our school garden has been thriving in that small space. It's raised beds and smaller raised beds. Every single grade in our school actually gets to work in the school garden. So that's right there. It makes it so important that if students, of course, not right now in New England winter, but as the springtime comes, right now we are growing in the cold frames, but as our students are using that garden space and they also ask the question, so once I have pulled this thing, what do I do with it? Because many of them are basically pulling out those carrots or harvesting those kale. That is one of the best moments to teach them food safety. So just a quick of who, where, and when, and I will say that I have a good feeling that most of you attending here are already, work with the similar situation all the time. So my goal is to sort of bring it all together and say, how have we applied in the school and what schools can really do to integrate this very crucial policy and a plan and a document. So the idea is train, teach, and tell. That's something that we have been doing in our farm to school program for different activities, and this is part of creating a culture of food safety and health. So even though food safety and plan is something that can be housed in one place, it should belong to pretty much the whole school. So who should be the champion? Maybe you guys have a school garden coordinator, or many schools have food service directors who are taking the lead in with the farm to school program or with the school garden. If you don't have farm to school program, our food service director, currently we have an opening. We will be getting a new food service director shortly, but when he was there, he actually really was involved, and that's what I envisioned and I enjoyed when working with him, myself as food FTS coordinator. Without food service directors engagement, the link is not there, right? So if we want our students to deliver fresh produce from the garden for food tasting or activities like that, food service directors become really key. Science teachers love that too. And science teachers actually always are looking for opportunities to sort of integrate their curriculum with the school garden. So when should we actually go through this document? I always think the beginning of the school year is the best time when teachers are ready to embrace new ideas, when the food service director is still just thinking about, putting together full planning for the school year. That is always the best time to go through these safety plans, food safety plan, as well as any policies that we want to integrate. We have used this document now as, we are currently using it as the part of our school, high school, our field work project. So they are taking this document because we don't have farm animals and we don't have bigger farm, but we do have a partnership with many local farms, including Holly Hill Farm. And that's where our science teacher is basically saying, hey, can we take this food safety document and go to Holly Hill Farm and ask them all these questions? What are they doing for food safety? And so this is a whole new level of learning because we have those partners around us who may be applying these documents already. Where should this document rest, right? If it's not visible, it's not going to be used well. So idea is to actually present or update this document to bring it up during the kitchen staff annual meeting. We have integrated this safety document now in our school wellness sort of policy, so that the farm to school now, basically a lot of farm to school activities live in school wellness plan. So that is always a good place to add that. Next slide.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, so this is actually the slide. I just wanted to kind of give an idea of many of us who are working with school garden or creating farm to school activities and projects. Some of these activities where I feel like we can totally see the impact of applying the food safety plan, as well as having a food safety policy in our school, of course, is whether it's the field trip and outdoor learning. We have a very robust fresh fruit and vegetable salad bar. So of course, the food is not coming from our garden, but we also feel like this is where when our science teacher is working with the food safety plan, they can students can see the connection happening. And the fact that students can say that, hey, I can learn these about these food safety plans. I can go to the school garden and work. I may not be able to harvest enough food, but whatever food I'm harvesting, and then I'm connecting it to the school kitchen. These are all of these, the food safety plan expands throughout that spectrum. We also have in-class menu presentation, something that we are now about to resume, given COVID restrictions kind of easing up completely. Where our food service director or our food kitchen staff comes and talks about the menu in the classroom. We have almost a 3-year-old program called Student Food Ambassadors. These student food ambassadors are the real caretakers of our garden. They maintain the garden. So our goal is, this is one of their project now, is to create a school garden audit. And now I know I have known it. I'm going to go to Eric and say, Eric, we want to do an audit of our school garden safety, and that is something that we have not done that ourselves, because we know this is something that it's a resource that's becoming available and how we can all use it. But this can be integrated in a lot more sort of productive way than just going through the list and then putting it aside for schools. We do have parents and families get involved, so it's always good to have that food safety plan that has been kind of vetted through. Our high school students, as you can see, they are back to their cooking classes, and on Thursdays we have enrichment classes where our high school and middle school students learn how to cook. And again, needless to say that integrating food safety plan and keeping that, using that plan to make our student aware of what protocols, what safety plans we are putting in place is so important. So, And something that I just had to put this out there, because when we do farm to school, there are 3 C's, right? Cafeteria, kitchen, and classroom. Cafeteria, community, and classroom. And I always think of the fundamental of our garden food safety in our program. The way we have written is 4 C's: clean soil, clean water, clean hands, and clean surfaces. That's the message up till now. And whether it's our students who are, yes, youngest, you can see this was from last fall, actually, or when they were building the garden. These are some of the very beautiful historical photographs for our school now, is that the garden was really built by the students. All those students are usually, almost always, are given a quick overview of how they are going to maintain safe space. And but having it more official, applying the CQP material and document, that's where our goal is now. So something that I thought I have found it very interesting, and maybe we can, most of us may not be aware of, is that 50% of youth who are working during high school years, they are working in food industry. And to use this opportunity to integrate food safety documents in STEAM program with high school students, it actually equips our high school students to address food safety challenge, to be able to actually be part of the work, be safely involved in the work that they're doing outside of the school. Especially in our neighborhoods, majority of our high school students are working, whether in grocery stores or in restaurants or in smaller fast food places. So, so the value of applying this, educating our teachers and students about the food safety plan, actually has, the collateral benefits are many. So it, again, increasing food safety knowledge in school garden work is does not stop at school. It also goes to home, right? When students learn about food safety, they are also going to communicate to their parents and families. So very quickly, I'm going to go through this one. It's the goal is, even though this document is something that could be revised once a year, in maybe a place where we are housing it is creating, integrating it into the school wellness plan as part of our culture of food and health, creating opportunities. Again, I may be sounding redundant right now, but I think I was so excited about sharing all this information. So the main thing is, can you connect this document to your science teachers? Can you reach out to some of the kitchen staff or the food service director to say where and how we can actually house this document? One thing that I have not mentioned here is that on MDAR website, as well as UMass Extension, as well as USDA website, the food safety plan, there are some amazing resources. Also in our own this document that was just developed, there are lots of different resources. If you have to actually develop a garden food safety plan, some of those resources are already there. Do not think that you have to reinvent the wheel. You can actually make it your own depending upon the size of the garden you have, the amount of food, if and when it goes to the school kitchen or in food tasting. So, one last thing I'll say is that our food, one of our very wonderful kitchen staff who has been with us for a long time, she suggested, like, why can't this garden food safety plan also be connected to the food safety requirement for National School Lunch Act? Because they, as part of the USDA and requirements, they are going through a lot more stringent regulation. And so they suggested that we can also sort of connect the food safety plan with the school lunch plan. And I think that would be it. Yeah. So, and why is it relevant? We all know, we all love food. We all have to have food, and it is a lifelong skill we can teach our students. So let us empower each other. Thank you.
Thanks, Chetna. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and pull us back together. And I actually, before we open it up for questions, I do want to just, like we several times sort of referenced these various documents, which again are linked in the slideshow, but I just want to pull one up and I'll share my screen again just so you guys can sort of have eyes on what we're talking about, and you can sort of see what it looks like. So hold on just 1 second and I will
Excellent point, Simca. I was
Yeah.
talking about this secret document, which is not secret at all.
So folks can see this school garden food safety assessment tools, resources, and procedures. This is like one of the things that was being referenced and was developed in partnership with the Department of Agricultural Resources and this advisory group that Chetna was a part of. And it includes this safety checklist. So you guys can, it's got some background information, but then also really a way for you to get started thinking, do we about safety in your garden? Do we have a food safety plan? And do that kind of initial assessment. And then, you know, do we ever you know, test the soil? Do we have written hygiene requirements? But to supplement the checklist, so if you say, oh no, we don't have written hygiene requirements, or oh no, we have never tested the soil, there is a really handy appendix that then gives you resources of where or how to actually go about doing or developing those things. So this is just kind of a sneak peek of this document, and really encourage folks to take a look at our website and really dive into the resources that are there, because this was designed with in partnership with both the food safety experts at MDAR, but then people who actually work in schools and could really provide the sort of check of, is this going to be useful for us? Is this going to be too onerous? Or what do schools really need to be able to evaluate their own food safety practices, start to make a plan for actually having practices that meet the and uphold basic food safety, and really give you a sort of pathway to go about developing a comprehensive food safety plan for your school garden. So I just, I'll stop there and again, stop the screen sharing. I want to open it up to conversation. So let's see if we've got, oh, I can put a link in for everyone. I'll put the, it all lives on this, let's see, on our Mass Farm to School website. You can, I'll send this to everyone. Can try that. It's the School Garden Food Safety Manual. Hopefully that will work. And that's the sort of main page where you can then access all of the documents. But any other questions at this point for Eric or Chetna, or feel free to take yourself off of mute, or just put in questions in the chat.
And I'll just add to what Chetna said about, you know, making the checklist your own. I mean, every farm is different. So don't feel as though you have to use everything on it. You can just take parts of it. You can add to it. So just make it, again, make it your own and use it to your advantage.
And we know that for some schools that are really striving to get school garden grown produce into the school cafeteria, they may be running up against local health departments wanting them to have documentation or some sort of certification or something that proves like they really are doing that in a safe way. And that was really another impetus for this guide, that we really hope that any local Board of Health agent we'll be able to see that if a school is following these practices, that they've been informed by food safety experts and are really going to lead to safety of food being harvested from the garden before it goes into the school cafeteria. Good question. Someone said, do you recommend that school garden teachers get Serve Safe certified? And I mean, I do think, again, this is going to be up to the unique situation of what a school garden teacher is like trying to do. If they're doing a lot of cooking with kids, Serve Safe is very much geared towards a kitchen environment versus a farm environment in terms of food handling. So if the teacher is not going to be doing any sort of food preparation, that may not be a good fit. If you have a Board of Health agent that's saying you can only serve food if you have a Serve Safe certified teacher, that might be a reason that you pursue it. So I don't know, Eric, if you have anything else you'd want to add there with your experience both in the farm and the culinary side of this, but.
It helps. It definitely helps, but it's not specific to the beginnings of the produce and things of that nature, but it's definitely, it's eye-opening and it's good to see, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that's a great suggestion we have there about putting in some additional resources around cooking in the garden or using garden produce cooking with students, because certainly a lot of the same basic hygiene practices apply, but as this was developed around the produce safety rule for raw produce, it certainly doesn't get at some of that cooking food safety that you may want to also have. So, oh, and thank you, Chetna, for putting in another great resource in the.
Sorry, Simka, I was thinking, just want to add that this is a website which has, I think it's just like a 4-page document from USDA, which never gets old. It's a food safety tip for school gardens and has just a very comprehensive list of what needs to be done in school garden, whether it's checking your soil and if you combine that with this CQP document, you'll be able to sort of like, it really complements. And the link for this document is also in the new CQP doc we are looking at or we're talking about, but mostly it will help you center saying, hey, these are the basic checklists that we have gone through. And especially for soil testing, I think that could easily be deterrent and take away time. And especially in urban schools where we don't know what was being done in those areas, the best thing we decided to just go with the raised beds, but still getting the soil tested is always a good idea.
So question about vermicompost. Can I use my own food scraps at home? I'm going to hand that one over to Eric because I don't want to answer a vermicompost question incorrectly. Yes, and for those unfamiliar with vermicompost, this is worm composting.
Yeah, I don't have extensive knowledge of the worms, but I think that would not be an issue as long as it did not have any contact with animals. You don't have a pile in your backyard, which I'm sure you don't, but as long as you just keep them contained and bring them in, that wouldn't be an issue.
Great.
And one thing I can add is we have our pre-K teacher for last 3 years has been keeping a small vermicompost system in her classroom. So just more as an sort of an educational opportunity for our young ones. And so at least from that point so far, touch wood, nothing bad has happened and students have been really enjoying seeing the compost being made and putting it in their little container garden afterwards.
Any other questions? And this is a new resource, so we would love folks to be trying it out and sending us your feedback. Like that was great around add in things around, you know, cooking with kids. So I think this is a starting point for us, and we really want to evolve these resources to best meet the needs of school. So as you put stuff into practice, please stay in touch. If there's questions that you have about the resources or additional ones you'd like to see, we're really excited about this partnership with the Department of Ag Resources and really having their food safety expertise now available to the school garden and school environment environment. So please stay in touch with us if there's more resources we can develop to support your school garden efforts.
Yep, and I added my phone
Yeah.
and email in there if anyone wants to reach out after or later or down the road, or be more than happy to.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us today. And hopefully spring is on its way and you guys will be able to get out in your garden soon. Happy planting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.